We were the top team in Kolkata regionals. From that, we got a spot in ICPC.
He's a two-time ICPC finalist.
Like some of the best coders in the world were over there. Like seeing them was a bit intimidating. Actually, we did really well. We were the best performing team in India.
So he was working at Google as a senior software engineer.
I mean, I started coding in college only. I was into math since my childhood.
So what is the typical roadmap? How can they get started into this competitive coding? You'll be able to get to the interviews relatively easily if you are. How many of you know about ICPC? So it's a coding competition that typically happens across the world. Different people represent their colleges in that conference. He has actually went to represent India there twice, once in Thailand and once in US. He'll talk a bit about that as well today. But firstly, so Venkatesh, you can briefly share your work experience, like, after your BTech at IIT Bombay, like where all you worked, how did it go, what's your experience? You can briefly share about that.
Yeah, I completed my BTech in computer science from IIT Bombay in like 2017. After that, like I worked at Microsoft for a year and a half as an ML engineer. And then I moved on to Google, worked as software engineer. I worked there about like 3.5 years. And then I wanted to try out startups like in a very fast-paced environment. That is when I moved to a startup called 0x People. Like been working there since more than 2 years now, leading all the engineering efforts and like, everything else that is required to run a startup.
So you can probably share like, what is a coding contest? How is it different? Or, you can share a bit about that.
So typically competitive programming contests have like a very specific problem with specific constraints, which you are expected to solve using like some sort of computer code. Like there'll be a set of inputs that your code will be tested against, which they expect to produce a certain output, right? So like there are various difficulties in the level of problems that are posed in this contest. But like basic, to give like a basic understanding, it's mostly about solving problems using computer code. So like that's what a competitive programming contest looks like.
Okay. Great. So I hope you've understood what a typical coding contest looks like. Yeah. So probably you can share how you have started your journey with ICPC, and you can briefly give an introduction about what ICPC is, how you got into it, and your journey. You can probably share a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I started coding in college only when I joined like in computer science. Like never did coding before that. In my second year of college, like one of my seniors introduced me to this ICPC. Basically, it's like you can think of like an Olympics of competitive programming, where there are multiple stages, like teams. Like it's a team event, like it's a 3-member team event where teams around the world compete in it. There are multiple stages where like first you need to qualify amongst Indian teams. Like there are 5 to 6 teams that are chosen for the international contest. And then like from every country, there are few teams are selected and all of them finally compete in an international stage. So I mean, my journey has been like, I started in my second year, like I was into math since my childhood. So it like when I got to know about it, it was very enticing and like attracted me. So I started doing it like out of interest. And I mean, I started solving, my first question was on like Spodge. And then like I did some things on code forces. And then when I started doing, I realized like I don't know a lot of things. Then I started looking out for blogs, tutorials, started learning them on my own. And also I had some peers who are also interested in like, who are also in the similar track. So we collaborated and we used to learn together. And we ourselves formed a team, like because we have been working together only even before that. So we formed a team, and in our third year, we did apply to this ICPC. Like initially there'll be an online contest where like most teams around India just compete in an online contest for about 5 hours. And then the top teams get selected to regionals. We got selected in that, and there are like 3-4 regionals. I don't know. Now they might have changed. There might be a lot more regionals. At our time, there were like 3: Amritapuri, Kolkata, and Kanpur. So yeah, we were the top team in Kolkata regionals. From that, we got a spot in ICPC. Yeah, like we didn't really perform really well in our first ICPC World Finals. We were very tensed. It was like some of the best coders in the world were over there. Like seeing them was a bit intimidating, and like yeah, we were very tensed, and like we didn't perform really well in our first World Finals. And in our fourth year, we did apply again, and then we went through two World Finals the second time as well. And second time, actually, we did really well. We were the best performing team in India. Like we were ranked like 30th overall. Like, but yeah, we were the best performing team in India. Like we solved the most number of problems as well. So yeah, it was a great experience. Like meeting the best coders over the world and like trying to compete like at the highest scale.
So what is the typical, roadmap? How can they get started into this competitive coding? Okay, how can they probably be good at it? What is the path?
Yeah, so I think like first, just get your hands dirty. Try out like a few problems on like online judges like Spods or Code Forces, like very basic problems. Like if you have some basic understanding of how a computer code works, like how a program runs, like you should be able to solve like the easiest problems. They're typically like adding two numbers, adding like which are in string format or something like that, right? So they are very straightforward. It's just about you understanding how a computer code works, right? So like start from there. Yeah, and then slowly pick up like slightly harder problems. Like so when you start doing that, what you'll notice is there are some concepts or like some specific techniques that are used to solve problems which you might have never come across. All of them are just logical. Like you can like out of the box, if you think very hard, you might be able to come up with them. But these techniques will help you like they'll give you a framework to solve these problems, right? So basically, yeah, like start with easy problems, very trivial problems which just requires coding knowledge, and then start doing slightly harder problems. That is when you'll come across, you will get to know that you need concepts other than just coding, right? Like you'll need like something like called binary search or like some use of arrays or maps or right stuff like that. Once you start doing that, yeah, you'll get to understand how algorithms actually work and why they are done the way they are, right? So then you'll slowly understand like what is the time complexity, what is the space complexity, like how do you optimize for them, and yeah, then you can get further and like solve more harder problems, right? Like it's like a vast ocean. Like as you keep getting into it, like you can just keep doing at it. Like the top coders today, like tourist or someone, right? Like they still keep learning and coding till this date. So it's like an ocean. So just enjoy the process, get started, yeah, get your hands dirty.
Got it. Yeah. So Venkatesh, you can probably share, let's say if you take Code Forces as a platform, there is this thing called rating, coding rating for any programmer. So how does that work and how can one improve on that? You can probably share a brief about that.
Yeah. So rating works like similar to an ELO system, which is used in chess also. Like other competitive sports also use them, like online games. It's basically ELO is nothing but how probable is it that you will be ranked higher than another person. So your rating is calculated based on that. Like so like initially you will start with like some 1500 or so in Code Forces, and then like as you give competitions and you like there are contests like very regularly, like Div 2, Div 1 contests. Like initially you'll start in a Division 2 and or 3 maybe, like they might have changed now. So yeah, you start giving those contests, and then like you, as you keep performing well and getting higher ranks in those contests, your rating will increase. And there are multiple levels. Like after certain rating, you'll become a candidate master. After that, you'll become a master. After that, you'll become a grandmaster. After that, there is something called legendary grandmaster. Like there are some levels to like ratings in Code Forces. So yeah, like in India, I think there isn't any legendary grandmaster. Like there are grandmasters, I think, at this point. So yeah, it's like very fun. Like once you start getting into it and like keep learning new things and being in that community, like Codeforces also has a good community support, right? Like people do ask questions there and people do help others and all that. So yeah, like these are the rating levels, and then as you keep growing and like keep getting better at it, you'll get some titles to your profile in Codeforces. So yeah.
So I'll just share, a background about what what Venkatesh has just shared. So he was working at Google as a senior software engineer, and then Prasanna reached out to him. So Prasanna is co-founder, is a CTO of Rippling. So Rippling is, I think, over 10 billion valued now. So 10 billion means you can think of 80,000 crores. It's a US based company. He's the CTO of that company. So he reached out to Venkatesh. He messaged that, he probably is looking to hire him for his company. Okay. The reason being, he mentioned, it is mentioned on his LinkedIn profile that he's a 2-time world finalist, ICPC finalist. Okay. And that's how he got into, he got that startup opportunity. And in fact, now he's the director of engineering. He's the head of engineering team, the tech team over there. Okay. And yeah. So, and not just that, in fact, one thing that I just got to know when I was talking to Venkatesh today is that, in fact, at their company, Zurex people, so they hire people who are only, one of the important criteria is that the candidate should be a world finalist, ICPC world finalist, right? So I think their tech team is very lean, it's hardly around 20 people from what he was saying. So they have a very, very high bar, on whom they hire. You can imagine all the team members in their office are just, world finalists. You can think how it looks like. So primarily that, okay. So one thing that we wanted to cover upon today is let's say right now you have just started your, programming journey. So for someone like you, we wanted to give you an idea of what you can do to start your journey in competitive programming. Okay, right? I think you got a good idea of how you can start. One thing is you can probably look into platforms like Codeforces or Spoj, etc. You can just start solving some basic problems with whatever you already know. You will be able to solve, easy problems, good number of easy problems. Okay, and as you build more knowledge, you will be able to solve even, then medium level problems, then hard problems, etc. Right? So, how will being good at competitive programming or how will being good at this can help them, apart from, let's say, okay, they might get good rating, they might get a status on, they might become a master or grandmaster, etc. But in general, how will it help in their career path directly?
Yeah, one is the interview opportunities, that definitely helps. But even if you remove all that, right, if you do not consider all that, even if not for that, the process of thinking logically and coming up with a concrete solution which solves problems is very essential, in real world also as well, right? So at least competitive programming gives you a structure. Okay, these are the set of algorithms, these are the set of data structures. Of course, they are vast, but it's still a defined structure which you can use to solve problems, right? That definitely prepares you to real world where problems are much vaguer, the things that you can apply are much vast, right? So getting started here, doing really good here helps you get prepared for solving the real world problems, where you have to think out of the box and come up with really creative solutions, right? So yeah, the structured thinking and concretely coming up with solutions to problems is something really useful, even if not for the interview opportunities.
Got it. So yeah, one is directly for the interview opportunities. You'll be able to get to the interviews relatively easily if you are, if you have a really good rating in Codeforces or if you are good at competitive coding. And not just that, I think even in performing well in the interviews also, this will help a lot. So typically, if I have to, from my experience, if I have to share about, let's say if I have to compare the difficulty of coding rounds of these tech companies and the contests in code forces or etc. So I think this would be even tougher than the typical interviews, right? So if you are doing well in the coding contests etc., then the actual interviews will be relatively easier compared to this. So you'll be able to much easily clear the interview rounds. Okay, and so that's all I think majorly the thing that we wanted to share with you.